A city in shock, a country in mourning as the world wakes up to a deadly terror attack in London. Well, here's the latest we know at this hour. Police say they've arrested 7 people in connection with the deadly attack. Wednesday, police conducted several raids overnight in the city of Birmingham after the attack. Acting Deputy Commissioner as well as the head of the counter-terrorism organization, Mark Rowley, said hundreds of detectives worked through the night, carrying out searches at 6 different addresses. The raids were conducted as police probed the possible associates of the lone wolf attacker who was shot and killed last night. Police, though, have refused to comment on the identity of the attacker so far. Britain's senior counter-terrorism officer, Mark Rowley, did inform that 7 people are still in critical condition.
You'll see the closures restricting at the moment. We have some final searches to do around Parliament Square. We are absolutely certain Parliament will be able to do its normal business today, as they have insisted they must do. Business is normal in London, a bit of disruption around Westminster as people will understand, and more police officers on the streets reassuring the public to be able to get back to work in a normal way.
Also, let's get you a quick update on what we know at this hour. The Metropolitan Police has just made an announcement saying there will be a minute of silence at 9:33 a.m. to honor those lives lost during yesterday's tragic events in Westminster. London's Mayor Sadiq Khan is also organizing a vigil at Trafalgar Square at 6 p.m. London time to remember the victims and to stand against terrorism. Again, the latest that we know at this hour. Let's sort of recap what exactly took place and led to this deadly terror attack. It all started on the Westminster Bridge Wednesday afternoon. The suspect was driving a grey Hyundai. He mowed down some pedestrians. He killed 3 people and hurt dozens of others. Take a look at that visual there on your screen. Driving there, we saw those dramatic images of how he crashed his vehicle into the gates outside of the House of Commons in Parliament. He wielded a knife and then he stabbed a police officer. That's when officers fired shots and killed him. Again, 4 people dead, including the attacker, at least 40 or so injured, 7 in critical condition. Again, that car, as you saw, they're crashing into the railings of the Parliament House yard. The suspect then looming at police. Again, no word on the motive at this point. The attack was captured on surveillance camera. Quite a heavy police presence there in that area in London, which is typically popular with many tourists. That area, the Westminster Bridge, as well as the House of Parliament there, the House of Commons. Again, 40 people or so hurt, 7 in critical condition. Also in the dramatic videos, you see people running there for cover. We also saw in that surveillance footage that a woman was falling off a bridge into the River Thames. No word if she was pushed off or if she jumped off. Not sure if she saw that car coming down there at high speeds. She was later rescued and is still recovering in the hospital. Now, after that suspect's car ran into the Parliament House, the attacker then stabbed a 48-year-old police officer. Police have identified him now as Constable Keith Palmer. Police remain on the highest level of alert in London in wake of the attack. Let's now go to London's Bureau Chief, Mandy Clark, joining us with the very latest there. Mandy was providing us wall-to-wall coverage for several hours last night. Mandy, good morning to you there in London. Quite a dramatic turn of events taking place. What is the latest that we have at this hour? Certainly Londoners waking up to a rather tragic terror attack.
Yes, certainly. And the big news is those arrests that happened overnight. Now, they haven't given any names of the suspect, and interestingly, the police have asked media outlets not to give the name of the suspect. He has since died after he was shot after the attack. But those raids happened across Birmingham. Now, that is an area that has a heavy Muslim population. It's 21%, which is much, much higher than the rest of England and Wales. And we also saw Birmingham in the spotlight after the 2005 tube bombings. So certainly this city feels that it's under the microscope. Lots of Birmingham residents said they were dismayed that there's links already from this terror attack to their city. They feel unfairly scrutinized. And one resident said as disappointing it is, he isn't surprised because there has been links to terrorism from one of Britain's biggest cities, Birmingham, for a long time. So the public is waking up to the police encouraging more conversations between communities. The police also have today said it is linked to Islamic extremism, but they won't go into the details of that link. They're not naming if there's major terrorist organizations such as ISIS involved. So that is the news we know so far. The motives are still unclear of the attacker.
And Mandy, also we know that in about 20 minutes or so, I understand it's about 9 o'clock in the morning. There, not 9:33. We just saw an update from the mayor of London saying there will also be a moment of silence. The Met says a minute silence will be held at 9:33 in the morning to honor those who lost their lives during yesterday's tragic events. And then the mayor, Sadiq Khan, saying at 6 p.m. London time, there will be a sort of a vigil to remember the victims at Trafalgar Square and to stand against terrorism. So certainly this echoing a lot of sentiments there. And the raids are very reminiscent of what happened in both Paris and Brussels. Ironically, this taking place on the 1-year anniversary of what happened in Brussels, a very similar situation after the explosions at that airport in Brussels last year and that train station in Molenbeek. Police conducted several raids. A very similar situation unfolding in London. For our viewers, how far is Birmingham to London? And you mentioned it's a heavy Muslim population, but we do know that Britain has been a target for ISIS to recruit people. I guess at this point, still too early to draw any links or comparisons to terror groups. Looks like, from what we know, at least it's a lone wolf attack. How far is Birmingham from London, Mandy?
Well, Birmingham is around an hour and a half away from London. It does have that very large Muslim population. It also is economically deprived. So there is a sense that perhaps this population has felt that they have been outside the British culture in the past. When there has been terror attacks and links to Birmingham, there is a sense that they are just not getting the opportunity. And so certainly there has been drives to stop terrorism, and part of that drive is encouraging employment, so to make sure that people feel they're part of the community and they're not attracted to terrorism. The PREVENT strategy is the anti-terrorism strategy, and the people who run PREVENT have already been out saying they're going to look to increase their presence in Birmingham. So the city is going to be very much in the spotlight. The big question for police will be how to stop these terror attacks that are coming from within the country. So it's people who are getting radicalized possibly from the internet and then committing these acts of terror on British soil. But a lot of the attackers in the big terrorist attacks we've seen were born and raised British. And that is a concern for police. So it's not foreigners coming in making the attacks. It's the British, their own people who are committing these attacks, who clearly feel outside of the culture.
All right, Mandy, thank you so much for all of those updates. Stay on track of that story and bring us the updates as and when we get them. And certainly we do know that Britain has been on a terror alert, given this situation on high alert so far. No other situations have come out, but British Prime Minister Theresa May, though, has condemned the terror attack. May said that it was no accident that the attacker chose Parliament, which stands for democracy, freedom, and rule of law. Theresa May also said that the Parliament was a target for those who reject Britain's values, adding that any attempt to defeat those values through violence and terror was doomed to fail. Theresa May praised the bravery of police as well as security services and paid tribute to the officer who died in the attack. He was a 15-year veteran, Keith Palmer, a 48-year-old. Police have identified him. He is the only victim so far they've identified. There were also a group of school children who were hurt. They were walking on Westminster Bridge. We also do know that another woman and a man, a woman in her 40s and a man in his 50s, were the two other victims. At this point, we don't know their names just yet. The fourth person who died was, of course, the attacker, and police are not releasing his identity just yet.
Any attempt to defeat those values through violence and terror is doomed to failure. Tomorrow morning, Parliament will meet as normal. We will come together as normal. And Londoners, and others from around the world who have come here to visit this great city will get up and go about their days as normal. They will board their trains. They will leave their hotels. They will walk these streets. They will live their lives. And we will all move forward together, never giving in to terror, and never allowing the voices of hate and evil to drive us apart.
All right, London's Mayor Sadiq Khan has said the city has been through one of the world's safest cities in recent years, despite the ever-present terror threat looming in Europe. Again, he also mentioned there will be a candlelight vigil tonight at 6 o'clock at Trafalgar Square.
There's been an extremely serious incident in Parliament today. Lives have been lost and people have been seriously injured. I want to thank the police and all the security services that did so much to keep the public, those who work in Parliament and MPs safe. Our thoughts are with those that have suffered loss and those that have seen terrible injuries this afternoon.
My message to those who want to harm us and destroy our way of life is you won't succeed, you won't divide us, we won't be cowed by terrorists. It's worth reminding ourselves that there's a very good reason why the terrorists want to attack our way of life and destroy our way of life. They can't stand the fact that here in Westminster, here in London, we have a thriving democracy. We enjoy civil liberties and human rights. Christian, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, those who are members of an organised faith and those who aren't, live together, not just peacefully, respectfully, celebrating each other, embracing each other. We're not going to allow them to divide us.
Well, the terror attack in London has once again brought forth the disturbing trend of using vehicles as weapons. During the July 2016 attack in Nice, France, an attacker, Mohamed Lahouj Boulel, used a 20-ton truck to strike down hundreds of people. 84 people were killed in that attack and more than 200 people were hurt. ISIS, Islamic State, claimed responsibility for that attack. Last December, on December the 19th, 2016, Islamic State sympathizer Anis Amri rammed a tractor trailer into a crowd of Christmas shoppers in Berlin, Germany. 12 people died and at least 48 others were hurt. A similar attack took place in Ohio in the United States back in November of 2016, where an Ohio State University student rammed his car into a group of pedestrians on the campus. 11 people were wounded in that attack. Attackers said the attacker was Abdul Razak Ali Ertan. He was inspired by Islamic State. This year in January, an attacker plowed a truck into a group of Israeli soldiers on a popular promenade in Jerusalem. 4 soldiers were killed and at least 10 people were hurt. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the driver may have been an Islamic State sympathizer. A lone wolf attacker used his car to strike down 2 Canadian soldiers back in October of 2014. The attack took place in Quebec. Authorities say the attacker, Martin Rouleau-Couture, was radicalized and was about to leave for Turkey. Again, the latest that we know with regards to the London terror attack, a moment of silence in about 15 minutes going to take place in London. There's going to be a candlelight vigil at 6 o'clock tonight at Trafalgar Square, according to the mayor. So far, 4 people have died, including the attacker. 7 people arrested in overnight raids, at least 40 people hurt, 7 of them in critical condition. One of those victims being identified as that 48-year-old police officer, Keith Palmer, a 15-year veteran with the Met, and then 2 people, other victims, one woman in her 40s, 1 man in his 50s. We'll, of course, continue to bring you much more updates as and when we get them. Check our website, wionews.com, for the latest.